Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia. Welcome back. So this week I'm going to be continuing on with the backdrop. I've still got to go and get some materials to do this next piece. Once I get the next section, I will actually paint it for the most part. I've still got a little bit of work to do, alignment pins, all that kind of good stuff. But it is now Monday evening. And I got my other 3 Caboose Industry ground throws in the mail today. So I have got those installed here and there and there. And this time I paid attention on the wiring so that they are all wired correctly. And they look pretty good. You know, for On30, it's actually not bad. What I will probably do once I get to the point where I'm doing landscape and scenery is I will take some very small, thin, wood stock, and I'll kind of build it up around here to make it look like a little wood platform, just to kind of hide the plastic look. You know, the little copper contact, just leave that. I'm not too worried about it. And I've run engines. I've run the 10-wheeler. I've run my Hessler. I've run my little converted truck in and around all of the switches here. And everything works well, so I am not concerned about any electrical problems. It's in good shape. So essentially, outside of doing some additional work on this siding, once I get a lot farther along, and I kind of have an idea what I want to do here, and I'll see what I'm going to do with it, track work is done. I've still got bridges, I've still got a lot to do, but the electrical and wiring of the track is finished. This is as much as I'm going to do. So what I've got is what I've got. All right, on to other things. So it is Wednesday night, and after work tonight, I went outside and cut the other piece for the other end of my seam divide. Beautiful evening here in Richmond. It was warm, so just had my stuff prepped so right after work I could go outside. But I have the corner piece cut, fitted, and it fits just fine. So I've got it glued up. I will let the glue dry, and then I will come in and I'll get out one of my belt sanders. So even though it's kind of hard to see, when I cut it, I did not cut this side complete. Apparently it shifted a little bit when I was cutting. So I've got a little bit of a lip here that I need to sand down and get it smooth. It's not all the way, it just goes up to about that clamp. So I'll take that outside another evening this week when the weather's warm, take care of that. But from an edge view, you can see it lines up pretty good, pretty straight across. So I still have to screw these supports in completely. I've got it one screw in. I just want to make sure I got alignment. I'll clamp everything up so it doesn't shift, and I'll get those other screws driven in. So I'm happy with that. If it's nice tomorrow, I might get that sander out and take care of it because I'm itching to start putting in some foam board. I might actually start doing that even before I get this done because this is designed to be lifted out, at least at this stage. So I think I'm going to start putting some foam board in, at least in the center section, because that's where I'm going to start scenery. And let's see what happens with that. So still Wednesday evening, and I'm just about ready to wrap it up for the day. But you can kind of see how I'm thinking for landscaping on here. So if you're down on the lower level and you're looking at trains going from this area into the tunnel, it's going to kind of disappear around. I will cut and trim and fit all of this better, but it'll disappear around and I'll have it continue actually on the other side of the foam board. So it looks like, at least at track level, that it's a continuous cliff going through. And then in this, I'll be able to trim back and kind of shape it, round it a little bit with a hot foam knife so that I can have trees through here, trees on here, or trees, so that it kind of goes up and over and covers it. This side's going to be the same. Foam board all the way through here, kind of elevated a little bit like a little gorge, or not a gorge, but again, same thing, a little bit of a bridge kind of coming through, cliff. up to about here, and then trees. That'll continue on the other side a little bit as well. So I'm going to try to hide that as best that I can. You can just kind of see this is all horizontal, but like what I did on my end scale, even though I've got this, I'll be able to carve it. And as I put in the Sculptamold and then the plaster top coat, I'll be able to make this look like anything I want. It won't look horizontal when I'm done. I have sort of a little kind of gorge going up into, not a canyon, but just a little gorge feature here. Lots of trees on this. Smooth it over, some rock face, not a lot, just a few little cliffs showing. The rest of this is just going to be the base for the Sculptamold and where I can plant trees. So I'm happy with how this is looking, and like I said, I'm going to wrap that up for tonight. But just one other comment. At the seam, I'll eventually come in and just sort of cut at the seam, and then I will do new pink foam board over on this side. I'll reuse all the little scraps for little knobs later, but it's starting to take some shape. So I'm liking how this is going to look. We'll see if I can pull it off. But now that I have some of the basics in for here, I get an idea of how I'll paint, and where the greens are going to go and the darker colors down low, at least on where I do this. So I'm going to put in pink foam board, at least on the 5 foot, all the way across, and a little bit on the back side of this. And then I'm going to go to the other side, and then I will get some foam board adhesive and then come back and glue all the pieces together so that I've actually got something that's going to be stable, and then I'll carve it. So more to come. So it is Thursday night, and did not get anything done that I wanted to after work. I did not get that sanded down. I did not go to Home Depot or Lowe's to get some foam adhesive. Longer work, had more calls today. The only thing I've done tonight is I have played a little bit more with some additional foam board just to kind of flesh this area out. Again, nothing is glued in place. I'm probably gonna do a lot this weekend on this. A little bit of rearranging, but this is gonna be how it's gonna kind of look. Trains coming into this area, they're going to be kind of going around. There will be, again, sort of a little cliff, little outcropping of rock that's going to continue through this portal, so that if you're looking through and you can see through it through trees, you're going to see a continuation of this scenery kind of go in this direction a little ways before it kind of goes up and gets included in the scenery on the other side. This side is a good view block. You can see the portal cut from here in the middle. Kind of come over this way, it disappears, but I'm going to have a lot of trees in and around this area, and then up, including some big deciduous trees that are going to kind of overhang, and then vegetation all the way up to the board, painted kind of dark black, dark greens, dark browns in this area to kind of hide and blend in with the trees, a forced perspective on the background until you get into this area. So I think it's going to work. But we'll see. I still got a lot more to do. So things that I'll finish up, hopefully tomorrow, the sanding. I will get the pins put in place for the alignments on both sides. Get some of the other stuff here and make some progress. See what I can do yet before the end of this video. So it is Saturday morning. Did a little bit more on the layout last night, and I'll show that here in a minute, but I've moved the On30 farther over. I still got to get rid of that shaper so I can gain another couple of feet. But you can kind of see how it looks like on this side. The position of the layout, I really haven't been able to show a whole lot on this face yet, but this is going to be how it's going to look. Did a fair amount of the pink foam board last night, and let's go take a look at that. So on this side, I have the pink foam board glued in place. I went to Home Depot last night, got a product, this Loctite Power Grab All-Purpose, which is rated for use on foam. So that worked pretty good. I've got it all set so that I can start doing my carving. Everything is glued in position, it's nice and it's solid. And then once I get the Sculptamold and plaster top coating after I get it carved into shape, it is not going to go anywhere, so it's all nice and solid. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come in with my hot knife, and I'm going to shape the hills a little bit, cut off some of the sharp edges, kind of round, kind of get rid of some of the sharp points here so that I get a more natural flow for the hill. What I don't get cut, sculpt and mold, I'll be able to fill in and shape when I get to that point. And then I'll be able to plant trees across the whole thing. Sculpt and mold, it's a sort of a paper fiber type product. It's easy to drill through to add tree trunks, and then into the pink foam board. It's going to hold everything nicely for the forests and ground cover that I'm going to put into here. So next step will be to get the hot knife. First I'm going to trim this so that it matches up with the cut in the table. Obviously scenery over here will match up to it. I'll show you how I'm going to do that later. Very similar to what I did on the end scale mountains, but more to come. Let me get a little bit farther, and I'll show what the end result is going to be before I start putting sculpt and mold on. All right, a few minutes later, I've used my hot knife, foam cutting tool to give some general shape and take off some of the sharp edges. So this area is pretty much done with the foundation anyway. Now on to something else. So a long time ago in an eBay purchase, I got some of these little pins for track. I've got like 027 track from when I was like 6, 5. And I know these pins are on those high rail metal. This feels kind of on the small side, might be S scale, I'm not really sure, but you know what? It works perfect for alignment. So I have already come in, and you can see where I've got witness lines on each side of my backdrop. And I've got these pins added. They're just loose in the hole. I did go in a little bit ago, and in the holes, I took one of these pins and I put a little bit of wood glue on a pin and put into each hole and just kind of spun it around. Not to keep the pins in place. I let it dry for a few minutes afterwards, but just to kind of give a little bit more rigidity to the masonite so that the holes won't wallow out as fast. It'll kind of make them harder so that these pins will keep the alignment in place. But I'll see if I can do this one hand, and we will see if I can get it in. Now I've already had it in, but there we go. So the holes line up and a little bit of a tap, and there we go. So when the layout is pulled apart, these will just, separate on their own. And then when I put it back together again, as long as I'm careful, make sure the pins line up, I've got it where the backdrop is reasonably flush and it's in good shape. So it gets a little bit warmer. I will take the other one outside, do some sanding, put the pins in that, and then this weekend I will probably start to paint the backdrop, at least on the other side. And probably on this side too. I'll probably start putting pink foam board in over here pretty quick. The weather in Richmond has turned out to be a beautiful Saturday. It's not quite lunchtime yet, but the temperatures have warmed up, so I went outside and I have this sanded now to the profile that I want. I'm going to put a couple of witness marks on it and drill it out and put my 2 alignment pins in this. And the backdrop will be ready for painting. As I get more of the landforms put in on this side, I can get started. And I can get started on this side. So I'm probably going to go to Hobby Lobby, pick up some darker acrylic paints for the colors that I want, and get started on the backdrop here fairly soon. But I'll get this piece done first. All right, I have the other end piece in place. The pins are in. It's nice and flush, looks pretty good. What I did have to do is I did have to notch this a little bit right there. Originally, as this would come over, this part was sitting like right flush with the plywood. It was fine, but because I put pins in, this had to be able to slide this way or be a little bit farther back that way initially, so that when the pins would align with the holes, I could slide this way. When I take the layout apart, it's not going to be a problem because the layout will separate and the whole thing will go this way. And then when I put it back together, you know, the bolts will kind of pull it tight, and I'll just have to make sure the holes align. So I'm good. This is done. I am going to go this afternoon and pick up some paints. I've got my white and my blue already, and I will paint this backdrop, but that will be in the next episode. I think this one's long enough. I've got plenty done. I will start fresh and show what I'm going to do on this side of the layout for the backdrop. And then I'll start working on the other side too for the foam board. But that's it for today. So everybody, keep having fun on your layouts. Until next time.